What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Elder Scrolls Lore. And before we begin today, I'd like to make a shout out to the Discord chat. Feel free to join in the description below or in the channel header. And I'd like to make a shout out to Ares for allowing me to use his music as well. So we've had the suggestions of doing the Imperial military and legions and doing each a separate legion, and some have more information than others. Today I'm going to be doing something that's more related to that. It's going to be a captain in the military that's more well known. He's in Morrowind and later on the DLC of Dragonborn in Skyrim. So we're going to be doing that. In terms of news, there is only one community recommended video that's a bit bigger than what it's going to require a lot more research than usual. So that's coming up. Other than that, I believe there's not much else in terms except for the cities, and then any other military projects that I plan on doing and covering. This sort of just came up because I found it really interesting. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy, and today we're going to be talking about Falx Carius. It'd be bad if I can't even pronounce the name. Jeez. Alright, well, let's get this started. Well, so Falx Carius was a captain and later became a general of the Imperial Legion, and he was posted to the Fort Frostmouth sometime before 427 of the Third Era as a Knight Protector and garrison commander. He had numerous dealings with the Neverine during the latter's journeys on Solstheim. He died sometime in the year 5 of the Fourth Era, but was raised from the dead later on in the Fourth Era. Now, during the fulfillment of the Blood Moon prophecy in 427 of the Third Era, Captain Carius was chosen by Heresy to become prey for the Hunter's game, along with 3 other champions from the island. He was kidnapped by Hersine's hounds, a group of werewolves who attacked the fort, and brought to the hunting grounds in the ice passages within the Mortrag Glacier. During the hunt, Carius managed to survive by allying with the Neverine. The hunt was foiled when the Neverine defeated the Hunter aspect of Hersine, which caused the Mortrag Glacier to collapse. Carius made his way back to Fort Frostmouth, and by the time the Red Mountain erupted in the year 5 of the Fourth Era, he had become a general. Now, after the Oblivion Crisis, Dunmer refugees, led by House Redoran, began settling in Raven Rock around the first year of the Fourth Era, and eventually built their own stronghold. General Carius perceived this as a threat to the garrison and demanded the Dunmers surrender. They ultimately refused, and Carius repeatedly wrote to the Imperial Council to seek guidance. Now, by the year 5 of the Fourth Era, Fort Frostmouth had almost been completely destroyed by the eruption of the Red Mountain, and it was never rebuilt. Unfortunately, Carius was killed in the debris from the exploding volcano, along with what we can assume a majority of the garrison that was stationed there. Now, an apprentice of Master of Neelith of House Redoran, Ildari Sorathril, found his corpse 2 centuries later and began practicing the black art of necromancy on him, with the intention of utilizing him as a powerful servant. Now, Ildari placed within him a heartstone to prevent the effects of the spells from wearing off. And after weeks of experimentation, Carius started showing signs of response. However, after the initial success of the spells, Carius regained his free will and attempted to kill Ildari. Out of fear, she removed the Heartstone and began further tests, each time faring no better than before. It's not clear what happened, but Ildari departed from Fort Frostmouth and the general was sealed within it. Now, 201 of the Fourth Era, which is obviously for the events of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, the undead Carius attempted to continue his vendetta against Raven Rock. He declared a war on behalf of the Empire and vowed to wipe them off the face of Solstheim. So basically what he decided to do is he raised an army of Ashspawn and sent them to continuously attack the settlement. And at the command of the Redoran Guard, the last Dragonborn would actually trace these attacks back to Fort Frostmouth and defeat Carius himself. So basically, this is something I decided to add along with it. I find myself predominantly fascinated with forts and military strongholds within Skyrim and Oblivion's and Morrowind itself. So if you guys want more of it, I'll talk about it a little bit more after the video, but for that, we're going to get right on to this. So Fort Frostmouth was a primary imperial settlement on the southern coast of Solstheim in the Herstang Forest. It was established sometime in the Third Era after the imperial discovery of the island. The fort acted as an area office of the East Empire Company as well, and they established on Solstheim to mine the rich deposits of ebony from Raven Rock, and was also the main link between Vardenfell by the way of the Cool. Now, the fort was known among the legionaries as a punishment detail, due to partly because of the weather, but mostly because the mead was absolutely terrible. Now, in 427 of the Third Era, during the fulfillment of the Blood Moon prophecy, the fort was attacked by werewolves sent by Heracine, who captured their captain Falx Carius, as obviously we said earlier, as one of the prey of the hunt. Now, the fort sustained heavy structural damage in the attack, but the captain survived and reassumed command of the fort later that year. Now, in 433 of the Third Era, the Nords of Skyrim attempted to capture the whole island of Solstheim for itself and remove Fort Frostmoth. Solstheim did indeed, as a whole, come under the official control of Skyrim at the time, but the fort remained intact, as did the recently established town of Raven Rock and its ebony mines. Really, nothing changed, and it seems that any changes that were wanted were only existing largely on paper. Now, after the Oblivion Crisis, Dunmer refugees led by House Redoran began settling in Raven Rock around the first year of the Fourth Era, under the leadership of Councillor Barara Morion, who maintained a good relationship with the East Empire Company, who were still in charge of the town at the time. Now, there is evidence that General Carius was still alive at the time and perceived the Dunmer settlement as a threat to the garrison and demanded that the Dunmer surrender. Now, they never replied, and so he wrote back to the Imperial Council, and they also never replied. So, eventually he would declare war on the Dunmer settlements, and threaten to retaliate if they were attacked, or even just attack himself. In fact, similar letters were actually never sent, and it actually can be found in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, and it seems that the whole idea of the conflict between Fort Frostmoth and Raven Rock appears to have been the product of an increasingly more paranoid Carius' imagination. Now, Raven Rock at the time still regarded itself as an imperial under imperial protection according to its own history, and was still under the East Empire Company as well. Furthermore, the Dunmer colony was still relatively very small. Now, in the year 5 of the Fourth Era, the aging Fort Frostmoth was almost completely destroyed by the eruption of Red Mountain, resulting in the deaths of most of the garrison, including General Carius. A few surviving Imperial soldiers moved to Raven Rock and attempted to establish a new garrison there, but there were too few in number to effectively protect the settlement on their own. Now, they would be supplemented and eventually replaced by the guards of House Redoran. Now, in the year 16 of the Fourth Era, Solstheim officially became a territory of Morrowind when the High King of Skyrim offered the island to the Dunmer people. The East Empire Company withdrew from Solstheim at this time, believing that the ebony mine was failing and, in fact, dried up. And, in fact, it was actually kept up and going for a considerable amount of time. But the last vestiges of the Imperial influence was gone at this point, and the fort would never be rebuilt. Now, the ruins at this point are also been taken over by ash spawn and albino spiders. So the reason I actually find this kind of stuff actually kind of fascinating is because forts they don't move, they don't change. They can be rebuilt, they can be destroyed, but they also tell a history of the forces occupying it and the forces around it and the history of events around it. That's why I like covering the cities. That's why I like covering I don't think I've covered any forts so far, but there's a reason I like covering that, is because they could tell a history in itself, because they don't stay, or they stay there while everything around it can change. So with that being said, if you guys want more of the forts, I could start in Skyrim, or I could start in a preferred province. I can look up military strongholds and see what we get. But other than that, I would like to cover them, so I might start doing them. It's part of the reason, like I said, why I like doing the cities, because the cities can change, but ultimately they stay there. The cities don't typically move, so the history around it is just it's amazing, because you can learn so much about the lore of the Elder Scrolls universe and everything else. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Please like and subscribe for more content like this. If you have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments below or in the Discord chat, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.